Hey guys, it's Tiny Tom Logan back with another video for you, and today we're going to be taking a look at the much anticipated and the much requested Corsair H100. Now I've quite openly not been a fan of the Hydro series before. A lot of people kind of confuse them with like full-on water cooling, and even Corsair kind of saying, you know what I mean, they don't actually call them like a proper full-on water cooling loop, kind of like posh heat sinks really. But yeah, the ones that I've tested before I've not been massively impressed with. But basically we're going to be taking literally a clean sheet. We're not going to be thinking about anything else in the past. We're just going to be testing it the way this comes out the box. We're going to be looking at the numbers and obviously the kind of performance with it, kind of basically, you know what I mean, how loud and quiet it is. We'll take everything into account with this one. But without further ado, what we're going to do is bring you in now, get the box opened, show you what's inside, go through the mounting process, then the testing, and then right at the very end, as always, we'll finish off with a conclusion. Haha! Right then, gays and girlies, I'm actually doing this bit of the video first. I've not even recorded the introduction yet, so that's going to confuse loads of you anyway. But before I actually fit this and do anything with it, I thought I'd actually just do a basic, I suppose you'd call it, box opening, but just to let you know what comes in the box with the H100. And as you can see, I've literally not even opened this yet, so I don't know what's inside it just as much as you lot don't, and because I wanted to do that on camera, oh dear, can I get it open this time? Yes, that was my phone going off in the background. Aha! Right, height of professionalism as always. Right, so it very much does look like the H50 and the H70 boxes I've seen before. Obviously I've not done the 60 or the 80 since, but anyway, pop it open. Got some, well, obviously protective polystyrene, then manual and Corsair Solutions Guide, which basically is them trying to sell you all their other bits. But having a look inside the box, I'm going to start at the back. That's a back plate and the mount. The back plate, it looks, is it adjustable? It is. Don't forget I'm doing this, I've not looked at this at all yet, but the back plate is adjustable, so you'll be able to do 775, 1156, 1155 and 1366. Then we've got some a big bag of screws, which I'm assuming is obviously all part of the mount. Then working our way forward, we've got 220mm fans, as obviously we're expecting a 240mm radiator in a moment. There's nothing else in that box there. Well, we've got a couple of fan extension cables, but now when we start lifting it out, this is the actual unit itself. So what I'm going to do now, you can see the box is empty. We don't really need to see the fans or anything like that, so I'm going to take the main unit out of its protective package now. In fact, what I'm going to do is zoom you right in. There you go. Right, can you see that the fins are quite far spaced apart? You can see through, which generally means for this to work properly, just by looking at it, it's going to need quite high airflow fans, but we will see later, that's just as it looks there. But anyway, the radiator itself is actually fairly thin. I'm just going to grab my tape measure to have a look, because it is, that radiator is quite thin. It's kind of H50 thin, I would say. It's 25mm thick, so you've got a 25mm thick radiator there, or at least the side is 25mm thick anyway, and you've obviously got quite thin end caps. On the actual body itself, you've got, there's a dial that you can adjust. Again, I'm literally looking at this, and we'll go into more depth later. You've got a Molex power there. There's also a selection of fan connectors here, so I'm assuming that you can plug the pump in to your Molex, and then I'm thinking that you must be able to power the fans off the top. Again, like I said, I'm not giving you any jip or anything at the moment because I've not looked into the product at all. Mainly because I want to go through the video and kind of teach you as I learn in the video, because obviously I'm going to have to fit this into the case in a minute, which we'll cover, and then like the wiring up and stuff. But having the fans on the top of the pump does make a lot of sense. The hoses on the side again are adjustable, which is pretty much essential, because when you fit it you're going to need to be able to move everything around and stuff like that. There is thermal paste on the bottom of the unit, but I've got to admit that's not an overly large section of thermal paste, but we shall see. The button on the front, I thought it was going to be like a dial, but I'm assuming that you can touch it and it goes up or down. Again, until we start using it, I really don't know. But I thought it was going to spin, but it must be push it up and then it will go back to the beginning or something. But we'll try all that when we use it. But if it's an all-in-one unit, an all-in-one idea where you can actually turn the fans up and down, because I originally thought it was going to turn the pump up and down, which is kind of pointless. But if the pump and the fans are throttled back, that could be a good idea. I would always personally have the pump on 100%, and then obviously turn the fans down a bit, because you always want the coolant flowing around. But until we start testing it, we're not really going to be able to know. But yes, we've got the fans that are Corsair fans, are just black, kind of normal, what I call OEM fans, but at least the blades, at least the cables are black and flat, so it will match in with the Corsair power supply, and also look kind of tidy. But yeah, anyway, what we're going to do is I'm actually going to fit this in the 400R that I've got, so it's going to be going in a Corsair case anyway, and we'll see basically how it performs. But without further ado, I'm going to get on with that. Right, on the Corsair manual, you can see if I zoom this back out again so I don't have to stand here like an idiot. Put the back plate on first, then you've got some screws that you have to screw into the back plate, then you can fit the pump. And then basically what it's telling me is I need to fit the radiator up first and then have the fan blowing into the radiator. Or at least that's what it's asking me to do anyway. So I'm going to do that now, and basically what we need to do is find the small screws. Obviously this is the 400R. Need to fit the radiator in the top. And I'm just making sure everything lines up, although let's face it, if it didn't, it wouldn't be a very good idea for Corsair. But the easiest thing for me to do now is fit the fans first so that they're on, and then we can put the whole unit up in together. Right then, got the fans on. I've also got, you'll notice I've only put 2 screws in each, but this is just while I'm getting everything lined up. You'll also notice that I've got the fan cables together, and they're hanging in the middle, so that if the cables obviously do go onto the pump, that the cables are going to be roughly in the right place. It also make it easier for me to be able to bunch them up. It's always worth thinking about where you've got your fans and where the cables have got to be before you start screwing everything in, because otherwise you just end up doing everything twice. Now the reason why I've done it this way is I wanted to make sure that I could still get the rad and everything in with my RAM fitted and the motherboard fitted, because obviously I'm not only testing the size of this but the size of the case, and it all does go in perfectly fine. So I'm going to stick a couple of screws in. So I'm not going to bore you silly and have you watching me screwing this in, but well, not all of them anyway. What I'm going to do now is cut the video off. Cut the video off, finish getting this fitted, and then we'll have a look at what we need to do with the back plate and to get the actual main unit fitted. Right then, I've fitted this one and this one already. Basically, you take these double-ended threaded like bolt screw bits, and you screw them into the back plate. The ends are the same length, so you just screw them in. You can see that I've already kind of test fitted the pump section. There's a bit of thermal paste on the CPU. But in the packet as well, there's 2011 fittings. Now, if you have a look, that's the end that will go probably into the like the pump section because of the clips it will need. But it's got a stumpy, short threaded end. Now, obviously I don't know yet, but could this mean that we're going to get a separate bracket? Could it mean that, like the Xeons, that the 2011 is going to have the back plate built into the motherboard? Or does it just mean that it could be the same as 1366? I don't know. It's all speculation at the moment because like I said, I don't know the ins and outs about 2011 until stuff starts arriving, but apparently this is 2011 ready. Now, we've got all of the parts on there, so we can take the pump, get the cable roughly in the right place where I want it, and we can slide that over. Now again, something that I'll say about 2011 is I'm just going to put these on while I'm talking to you. The bracket for this is the same. It looks like 1366 is as wide as the mouth goes on it. So that's something else that's making me think, is 2011 socket going to have the same spacings for CPU blocks as 1366? Because I don't really see anything else in the packet that could mean, you know, do you know what I mean, that we're not really getting anything else. We get 2011 bolts, but no extra 2011 brackets or anything. So does that mean 2011 is going to be the same as 1366? Only time will tell, because I've really not read too much into it yet. I don't like reading loads and loads and loads of different things, because half the time things change anyway, or they're only speculating. I prefer to wait until we've actually got samples in hand to be able to talk about it. Now, I'm doing these right up to the end of the thread, so they're done up as tight as they possibly can be. Right, that's it. So there we have fans pushing up into the radiator, obviously exhausting out the roof. The pump's fitted. All we need to do now is get the Molex to it, and then I'm going to run the first lot of tests with this on 12 volts, but then I'll also do it in the into the top of the like pump block, and we'll test the speeds as well. But that is all fitted. Really isn't that hard either. If you're not, you know, massively confident with your tools, just take your time, because as long as you don't rush it, or you know something's not fitting and you start smashing it or really forcing it, everything just goes together fine. And in this case, I've got to admit, especially from my point of view, it does fit quite well. Now I do like the look of it. But anyway, that's enough for this, guys. I'm now going to get everything finished off in this rig, so we can get things tested. Right then, guys, it's all in there. This cable here is the power cable. I have got the fans plugged into the pump. As you can see, it's either side. It's got a connector for 2 3 pins, which is where I've got it plugged in, and two PWM cables as well. Really doesn't make any difference which side you put the fan in. I've been playing around with it and testing it already. What I will show you is, I'm not sure whether the camera's going to be able to pick up the difference, but that's actually just that section lit up now. That's 2, and then that's 3. I really don't think my camera can tell the difference because of the light. Oh, you could just see it then, but there we go. There we go. Right, that's just the bottom one. That's the second one, and then that's all 3. If I click it again, it goes back down to the first one. I just needed to get it into the right place so the camera could see it. Or could it? Maybe it was just the angle I had my screen at. Anyway, it may have been just the angle my screen was at. But it's on 1 at the moment. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to fire it up to 2. Or max rather, because one of the things that I've noticed this does is that the fans will be running a little bit faster now at idle, but they ramp up when the heat increases. So basically it's quieter at idle when it doesn't really need to do a lot of cooling, and then when the temperatures go up, the fans actually go up as well. You can't just have it on max. You can knock it back, and then the fans pretty much stay very, very quiet all the time. If I do it now, camera's in there, that's on the first notch. I'm just going to pump it up to the max for idle. I'm really not sure whether the camera's going to have picked up the difference there. I'm going to put it back down to low again. Right, as soon as I stop talking, I'm going to press the button. Hopefully then you did just hear it, but just in case, I'm going to try it again. We're going to point the camera down near the fan grills. Just listen. Right, it's just gone up to the idle maximum. I'm going to drop it back down again. And it's just dropped back. Now what I'm going to do to start with is I'm going to test with it at max, so I'll turn it up, and in a second, if I turn prime on, it will ramp the fans up, so I'll be able to show you. Now even with prime on, the fans don't run, they don't ramp up straight away, but also the fans are never actually running at a full 12 volts, because if I plug these into a Molex, they're just mental loud. So the controller and everything in the pump must still be holding the fans back a little bit. But to be perfectly honest with you, if it did run them at 12 volts, I would have marked it down a lot, because the fans are mega loud. Now the fans haven't actually kicked in yet, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to leave this running for a bit, and I'll just cut back in before the end of the test, and I'll show you how loud it is then. Right, okay, in there you can still see the 3 lights lit up. That's how loud it is. It's under load at the moment. Now that's not as loud as it is with the fans on 12 volts, by the way. Just let you listen for a sec. Come back a little bit further. It's not quiet. Those 2 fans in the top, definitely the loudest thing, but as I kind of do need to remind you, it is on maximum at the moment. We're doing the normal, wait for it to work, there we go. Doing the normal 200 times 20 for 4 gigahertz at 1.25 volts. Prime has been running for 30 minutes. there are your temperatures. Now, when I took my results, oh, by the way, ambient temperature is the temperature below 21.4 degrees. Now, when I took my results, I had 67, 63, 65, 62, giving us an average across all 4 cores of 64.25 degrees. If you take away the ambient temperature of 21.4, that gives us a delta temperature of 42.85 degrees with it set on the pump to maximum. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to restart this test, let it idle for a little while, let all the temperatures get back to normal, and I'm going to rerun it with it at the lowest setting. I'm obviously not going to do all 3, but we'll do it at the lowest setting, and we'll see if the noise and temperatures are much different. Right guys, I've finally worked out how to show you that the lights do change. There you can see we've just got the first section on, obviously where it's now in the dark, and I've got the studio lights off behind me. You can see that we've basically got it on low. Anyway, I'm going to turn over here, wait for it to focus in again. There we go. I've not got the studio lights on still, by the way, but again we're at 20 times 200 or 200 times 20 for a 4 gigahertz overclock at 1.25 volts. It says 232 because of obviously the load line calibration. Anyway, there's prime. It's running for just over 30 minutes now because I had to take my temperatures. When I took my temperatures, oh by the way, just to show you there quickly, again you can't see it very well because of the fact the studio lights are off, but the lower temperature is the internal temperature. That's our ambient. Right. When I took my temperatures, I had 69, 70, 69. I'll go over that again. 73, 69, 70, 69. That gave us an average temperature across the 4 cores of 70.25 degrees. If you remove the 22.2 degrees ambient temperature, that gave us a 48.05 degrees temperature with the adjuster on the front of the pump set to low. So that's not really a great deal of temperature rise, considering that it's now at its lowest setting. It's roughly it's about 5 degrees really, give or take, difference. And I'll bring you back up. It is much quieter now. Much quieter. Just to show you, I'm going to hold the pump, I'm going to hold you still, I'm taking the door off. I'm just going to turn it up to maximum so you can hear the difference now. I'm going to stop talking. Right, obviously you heard it go up then for maximum. We'll turn it back down again and we'll wait until the fans drop back off, just so you can hear the difference. Right, that's them back to low again. I'm just going to do it again, turn them back up. Look, I said, just to be able to demonstrate the difference in the noise. There's a fair bit of difference there. Back off again. But at set to low, I'm pretty impressed with both the temperatures and the noise level, to be perfectly honest with you. But now I'm going to get this pumped up to 4.2 gigahertz, and we'll see how she copes with 1.35 volts. Right then, you can see that the dial on the pump there is lit up right the way around, so we're running it at max, and the fans are back at max as well. If we come down here, once it focuses, there we go. 200 times 21 at 1.35 volts for a 4.2 gigahertz overclock. Prime has been running for quite a while now. Quite a while meaning just over 30 minutes. I've just taken my temperatures. When I took my temperatures, I had 74, 72, 72, 70, and with a 22.6 degrees ambient. But yeah, 74, 72, 72, 70 when I took my results. That gave me an average temperature of 72 degrees dead. If you take away the 22.5 degrees ambient temperature, that gives us a 49.5 degrees delta temperature, obviously with the fans at max. But now what I'm going to do is drop the fans back down low, and then we can run these tests again. Right then guys, you can see at the back there that only one light's on, so we've got it on low. Wait for it to focus, there we go, 4.2 gigahertz, 200 times 21, 1.35 volts. Ambient temperature is 21.1 degrees. Prime has been running just over half an hour. And there's the temperatures. Now, when I took my temperatures, I had 80, 76, 77, 75. That gave us an average temperature across all four cores of 77 degrees. If you take away the ambient temperature of 21.1 degrees, that gives us a delta temperature of 55.9 degrees. And bearing in mind, that is with the pump and everything set to low. Now, what I am going to do is I'm going to stick it back on high now, and then I'm going to try some 4.4 gigahertz tests. But the system is getting a bit finicky with that now, because obviously this rig, all it does is run Prime. So I'm going to try and get it done, and hopefully I should be back with some 4.4 gigahertz temperatures for you, at least with the fans all set to maximum. You can see, and probably hear, that the fans, or at least it's turned right up on the dial, and the fans have cranked pretty much right up. Ambient temperature is 22.3 there, it's 22.4 when I took my test just a few minutes ago, it's just fluctuating a little bit. We are now running 1.45 volts, 4.4 gigahertz, 200 times 22. Prime has been running for just over 30 minutes, as we always do. And when I took my tests, I had 86, 83, 82, 79. That gave us an 82.5 degrees average temperature across all four cores. If you take away the 22.4 degrees ambient temperature, that gives us a 60.1 degrees delta temperature. Now please bear in mind, this is at 4.4 gigahertz with 1.45 volts. Yes, the fans are going completely crackers. But those temperatures for this clock are actually pretty damn impressive. But it's now time for us to get this wrapped up and make a conclusion for this video. Right then guys, one thing I will say straight off the bat is the video is going to be going up first, but once the video's been up and I've embedded it in the main review and the main review's gone live, I will magic the link underneath in the description, but also if you go and have a look at the main review, you'll be able to see all the temperature results in the graphs with all the other coolers as well. I'll be able to give you kind of a bit more of a visual reference. Our graph program doesn't really work well where it's flash based with YouTube, and it's just a pain in the arse to keep making loads of different types of graphs. So to be perfectly honest with you, if you want to see graphs, go to the review. But I've done this this way before, where I say the award and then I explain why. So basically, you know all the results. So what am I going to give the H100? Believe it or not, I'm going to give it a gold award, and I will kind of explain why as well, because I am actually impressed with this one. Now, I'll try and explain a few things. The original H50 and H70 were really loud, and to get the most out of them, you needed to have them really loud. Now that's it was almost like that was made for the American market, because the way the American market is, they like big chunky stuff, they just like it to work, don't really care how loud it is. It's a bit like their cars, whereas sort of like the cars, big, loud, shouty, loads of brake horsepower, big, you know, chunky muscle cars, drink loads of petrol, awesome in a straight line. But then you get to us Europeans, and we like ours good temperatures, quiet, good looking, and obviously with the European roads there's lots of corners, so obviously we like our cars to handle better. With our coolers as well, it's pretty much the same kind of thing. We like them to look nice, be quiet. So it's a strange one, because you've got two very different markets, and something that's really popular in the States, really loud, and you know what I mean, kind of needs to have tornado fans on it to make it work. Might sell well in the States, but you can't try to bring that to the UK. People like me especially will just slate it. So the original H's, that they were kind of pretty much, I think personally, this is not something from Corsair, this is my perception, they were designed for the US market, and they did do really well in the US as well, and in Asia. But with the H100, what they've done with that little button on the front is they've allowed you kind of Jekyll and Hyde. You can get some really good temperatures with the fans turned right up. And something that I was impressed with is that if you knock the fans back down, that not only does it stay quiet, but the temperatures don't get a massive amount higher. Now I'm looking at the graphs on the screen because I've got so many numbers there, it's easier for me to just add them up. So when I'm glancing across, at 4 gigahertz, the difference really between low and high was about 6 degrees, but orally, do you know what I mean? So volume wise of those fans, the difference was like loud to really pretty quiet. So I was pretty impressed with that. Now a lot of people are going to say straight off the bat, did it beat the NXT14, did it beat the Silver Arrow? And the answer is basically no. In my testing, no it didn't. There was 2.5 degrees in it, which doesn't sound like a lot, but with a heatsink, it is a fair big difference. But the thing is we were getting down near to like 40 degree or low 40 delta temperatures. Now that's a big deal. Once you get down to 40 and below, that's when you're talking Noctua, Silver Arrow and water cooling below 40. But to get in the low 40s is still a very, very good achievement. And it's one of the reasons why I thought with this it deserved the gold award. Now the 240 rad, you know what I mean, yeah, that's brilliant, it's a decent, it's not massively thick, which makes me think that there may be a thicker one coming, but you never know. I'm not too sure, to be perfectly honest with you, because if you added a really thick rad, you'd get a lot of problems with them fitting into cases. For argument's sake, it wouldn't fit in the 400 that we use for testing at all, the carbide 400R. But it is a very good cooler. Now when you move up the range, so you get to 4.2 gigahertz, 1.35 volts, the gap actually closes a little bit. That's actually the sweet spot. I'm just going to change it on my screen. That's actually the sweet spot with the cooler, because it actually gets quite close to the Noctua. The Noctua was 50.45 delta, and the that has actually really surprised me, and I don't mind leaving this in the video as well, because at 4.2 gigahertz I really am having to double check it, but at 4.2 gigahertz, 1.35 volts, the H100 on high fans was 49.5 degrees delta temperature, and the NHD14 was 50.45 degrees delta temperature. So there's actually a degree in it where it beat it, and I hadn't noticed that until that point in the video, and I don't mind admitting that, so I'm actually quite gobsmacked with that. The Silver Arrow was 49.6, so at that point in the testing, 4.2 gigahertz, 1.35 volts, it's on par with the Silver Arrow and the D14. But what we've got to bear in mind is, again, that was on high fans, and the fans are loud when they're on high fans. Some of you out there might not care. I could not live with it on high. You turn it down to low fans, it was 55.9 degrees. And that's still an amazingly good result, because the Super Mega was 60 degrees. We're talking deltas here, by the way. The Be Quiet Dark Rock Pro was 61. It's only really beaten by full-on water cooling kits, and then you're talking a fair old big gap. The crappy Swiftech was 44, with a decent kit like the XSPC RS360, that's like 39.7. So you're talking almost a 10 degrees drop with a proper water cooling kit. And something else that really surprised me as well is, generally with these kind of sealed water cooling loops, and I don't really count this as a water cooling kit by any stretch of the imagination, it's like an all-in-one kit, do you know what I mean? I really don't see it as being water in my eyes, but normally when you leave them running they're not that great. I'm just going to change the graph again, and I've just realised I've not opened it, so I'm going to stop the video quickly and then I'll be back. Right, so we're back. I've got the graph open. I do apologise. I'd opened the first two, but I hadn't opened the last one. Right, so I can see it there now. Now, the thing is, if you're going to have a look on Overclock 3D, you'll see that not many coolers have actually passed the 4.4 gigahertz test. I put 1.45 volts into the CPU, which is what it needs to be stable at 200 times 22, 4.4 gigahertz. Creates a massive amount of heat. Even the Silver Arrow capped out at this test. And a lot of people moaned at me about that test, but I remounted it 3 times, as I do with all of the tests, to make sure that we've not got any quirks and stuff. And the Silver Arrow just got, even the heatsink got hot. But anyway, we're talking about the H100. It passed, and it passed with bloody good results as well. We had an average temperature across all the cores of 82.5 degrees, which again beats the NHD14. The delta temperature was 60.1, 60.1. The delta temperature on the NHD14 is 67.7, so it actually pulls in front of the D14 when you really crank the volts. Now, this is one of the reasons why I'm doing this. I made the graphs, didn't really pay a lot of attention. I wanted to do this on video because it has actually quite surprised me. The XSPC kit and the Swiftech kit were quite a bit in front, but that's because they're, you know, full-on dedicated water cooling systems with 360mm, you know, much bigger, more complicated and well-engineered radiators. Now, one of the things it does, do you know what I mean? It does pull in front, but what we've got to bear in mind is the D14, even with its fans on 12 volts, isn't really loud at all. The H100, to get those temperatures, is very loud. At 4.4 gigahertz, if you turned it down to low, it was just too hot. The heat pouring out the top of the case with the low fans was just crazy. And the temperatures just went up so fast because there was so much heat being put into the, you know, thermal transfer going into the water that the fans couldn't get the heat out of the water quick enough. The temps just went rocketing. So for that kind of, and let's face it, with a 1366 processor, 1.45 volts is a lot of volts. And I probably wouldn't even be recommending that with any of, you know, with the Noctua anyway. And probably not with the H100 either, because like I said, you'll be going deaf. But that's not to kind of take away from the fact that it did actually produce quite good temperatures. Now, if you're with your rig, for argument's sake, if you're going to run it at, say for argument's sake, you're going to run it at 4 or 4.2, blah blah blah, do you know what I mean? Have it nice and quiet, lovely. but then you think one weekend, you know what I mean, you're going to play around with your overclocks a little bit, crank the fans up, have a bit of a laugh. It's not going to be 24/7 or not even going to be more than a few hours and stuff, then it's not going to be too much of a problem. Have a little bit of a play with 3D Mark or something like that, you'd be alright. But yeah, I don't really see living with it on high fans as a like a viable option. But keep talking about high fans, something that I was actually really impressed with this was the fact that if you have it on high fans and then you go back to having it just kind of on stock, or rather you go back to it being idle, the fans will actually slow down a fair bit. Now, loads of you out there are instantly going, oh, that's alright, it'll only be on high fans when I'm benching. I'm really stressing it, but I tried it at 4.4 with just kind of games and stuff, and pretty much within about 30 seconds of starting Crisis, the fans were, do you know what I mean, and going mental, because the temps do go up. But I found that was quite, do you know what I mean, quite a good thing. Not necessarily that you know what I mean, I'd want to live with that much. Now it's got the a thing on the side, the Corsair Digital Link. Now I've not used the Corsair Digital Link yet, but if you could set like fan parameters with that, so that for argument's sake you could have it at 4.2 GHz, and then if it hit 80 degrees the fans would ramp up, then that would actually be pretty cool. Like I said, I've not really had a play with that yet, but I don't know how it works. I don't know whether it's just a monitoring program or whether you've actually got stuff there that you can tweak and have a play with. But that would be quite cool. So overall with the H100, I'm going to give it a gold award. It's 90 quid, which stings. For a cooler, it stings a lot. You've got to bear in mind that the Noctua is like 65 quid. So you're looking at a good £25 extra. I have to say that really I would prefer the look of a heatsink to this. Also what you've got to bear in mind with this is you're going to need a case that you can actually mount it in. Obviously the 400R is one of their own cases, so that's going to be alright, but you're going to need a case that's at least water cooling compatible, because you can't exactly hang the cables, like the hoses and stuff, out the back. A lot of cases, like for example the R3, it won't fit in at all because the mounts are wrong in the roof, so you actually need a case that is water cooling compatible. The 650D it will fit in, the 600T it will fit in, so the Corsair cases, you're not really going to have a problem, but that's really not going to affect a lot of people anyway, because I actually see a lot of people going and buying a Corsair power supply, Corsair RAM, Corsair case, Corsair cooler, and go kind of brand happy. And if that's what you want to do, obviously it's going to work perfectly fine. So the price stings a bit, and it can be a bit noisy to get the best out of it, but the reason why I have liked it is Corsair have finally realised that being able to make something quiet is a bloody good thing. And the fact that this still actually does perform relatively well with the fans on low still deserves a bit of a thumbs up, because in the 4 and 4.2 GHz tests, even on low fans, it was beating some of the kind of air coolers. But then again, like I said, with the kind of price difference, I would hope it would. But it was beating the Super Mega Halem, even when the Super Mega Halem had 12 volt fans going absolutely ballistic on it. Bearing in mind that's a 70 quid cooler plus fans. The H100 on quiet was beating that. Even at that, you know, those kind of fan speeds. So it's definitely a step in the right direction for Corsair, and this is, and I don't mind admitting it, the first of the Corsair H series coolers that I would openly recommend someone bought, because I actually do quite like this. It's almost making me wish I'd tested the H80 now, but I'm not going to. I wanted to kind of leave it on this one. But it's definitely going to get a TTL thumbs up, and I can honestly see this appearing in a massive range of rigs over the coming months and stuff, and yeah, it's actually pretty damn good. Yeah, it surprised me, let's put it that way. I was expecting things to be a lot worse. But for all of those of you that have actually got to the end of the video and got to the end of this amazingly long conclusion, the 400R, the Carpide 400R will be up next. I've obviously used the H100 in it, and I built the system in it, and I've been using the system in there and everything, but we will be getting that review up as soon as possible. But yeah, I'm going to leave you now with the gold award-winning Corsair H100. Really didn't think I'd ever be saying that about one of the H100 series. So big thumbs up to Corsair. Yeah, enjoy your gold award. I'm now going to go away and live in shock for a few days. But yeah, I actually really like this to the point where I may use this in something else. But anyway, this is Tiny Some Logan with the gold award winning Corsair H100.